Hi everyone here, everyone online from Neutral Bay. My name is Steve. Oops, I'm not used to typing, apparently. This is a touch screen. My name is Steve Forte. I work at Telerik. And Adam asked me to, I spelt my own company's name wrong. And it's because it's a Bulgarian word, I guess. And Adam asked me to speak to all you guys tonight. Apparently, he does this talk at the beginning of every user group about some current trends and what's going on. And I figured to take my perspective, and I'm more than happy to do that. So just a couple things is I have known Adam for almost 20 years. I don't know if I deserve a trophy or if I should be committed to an institution.
There's a little certificate.
There's a little certificate. Holy crap. Well, I'm not supposed to say curse words because we're on the... This isn't a certificate that I've known Adam for 20 years. Yes, yesterday was the 20th anniversary of the SSW user group. I believe I've only spoken in those 20 years one time. So that means this being the second time, we're ready for the second 20 years. So I think one of the things that I'll just talk about, and I know the people online can't ask any questions, but anyone here in the room today, feel free to interrupt, is I'm an American, and I live in Hong Kong. I grew up as a software developer, focused mostly on data, and my background has always been working at small companies. Or startups as well. And I guess startups qualify as a small company. For those of you that don't know Telerik, we've grown to, I don't know, something around 700 people or so. And this is by far the largest company I've worked for, by more than an order of magnitude, which being a room of geeks, you all know what that means. When I say that in front of my wife, she just thinks that means it's bigger. So one of the things we're doing at Telerik, now that we've grown to be a large company, we have offices here in Australia, what we've done is we've started to engage with the startup community. I know it's pretty cool to be a startup right now, and what we've wanted to do is learn from them, find out what makes the developers tick. So I've learned a few things about startups. First of all, I've learned that I am about 15 years older than everyone in a startup these days. These startup guys are very young, and they're very they look at hurting. Meaning is they're not necessarily going to use the thing that is the best for their company. They're going to use the thing that is the hippest and the coolest and getting the most buzz. I hate to say it isn't true, but from the startups that I've been talking to over the last 4 years, I think that is the case. Obviously, there's a lot of standout exceptions to this. So some of the things that I've heard is what Telerik is doing is we're building a Startup Excelerator. Actually, we're not building. We're almost done with it. So we started an accelerator for startups back in August. We opened up an application for companies to apply. And we left that application open for about a month. And we got 80 applicants for 6 spots. And we narrowed it down, and we picked 6 companies. We hoped they were the best 6. To be honest, if we probably picked the second 6, they probably would have been just as good as the first 6. So at a certain point, it was a combination of many things that we chose. But at a certain point, we were just looking at some really good companies. So that was very encouraging. And these 6 companies were a combination of folks that came from abroad and also live in Hong Kong. And some of the teams are made up of expats completely, that are just all expats. Some of the teams are all local Hong Kong Chinese. Some have come from Mexico. Some have come from Malaysia. And one team actually came from Silicon Valley, which is pretty interesting, coming all the way to Hong Kong. One of the reasons why we chose Hong Kong is because our accelerator is pretty unique. It's only looking at hybrid mobile development. So we're only picking startups that are doing, cross-platform hybrid mobile dev. And we figured Hong Kong would be a great place to test that because there is 200% cell phone penetration in Hong Kong, and it's 150% smartphone penetration in Hong Kong, which means there are more smartphones than people. And when you consider that people over 80 and people under 6 don't generally have a smartphone, the people in Hong Kong are kind of psychotic. And that's partly because of a city. Well, it is a city, but a country of 7 million people, there are 7 mobile phone providers, which means there is 1 mobile phone provider for 7 I'm sorry, for 1 million people, while there are only 3 mobile phone providers in the United States, where I grew up, which means there are, for over 300 million people, right? So there's one, basically AT&T has to serve 100 million people. That's why they suck so bad. So there's a lot of innovation and a lot of, Facebook's largest market for countries over 1 million people is Hong Kong. So it's a great place for people to test apps. So I learned that people are mobile crazy. And one of the things I learned is that these devs really kind of are very sensitive to design. And have you guys heard of something called responsive design? Excellent. So that is definitely, I'll actually go back one. I'm going to say that's super trending. Another couple things that are trending, definitely hybrid app. Hybrid is trending, for sure. And other things that are trending, Twitter Bootstrap is trending. And the concept of trying to get a universal login is really frustrating people, is frustrating a lot of people. Passwords in general. So all the startups in the accelerator that are going through the process here in Hong Kong are using some form of Facebook Connect or LinkedIn login. So none of them, and I actually have a term for this. I'm probably spelling it wrong, but that's OK. I call it onboarding. You are definitely spelling on B-O-A-R-D-I-N-G, right? So that's trending. I'm going to stop putting in parentheses trending. So the term onboarding refers to is you're building an app or a website or some kind of service and pay very, like a laser beam, the attention to the process it takes to onboard a customer when that customer comes on for the very first time. So all the startups that I've been talking to, in Asia, in the APAC area, especially in the accelerator in Hong Kong, are really focusing like a laser beam on what that experience is, and they want it to be as frictionless as possible. So some of them have no onboarding process. You just start using the app. Some of them say just log in with your Facebook account. And then when you want to try to do things like persist things to the phone storage or save something up into the cloud, at that point they may ask you for some kind of email authentication or something like that. Another thing that you probably won't believe, well, let me take a quick poll. I know the people online, I'm looking over here, and I see my profile, which is not my good side, so I'm going to look this way, maybe. Oh, no, it's this way, I guess. I'm not looking there anymore. So I guess the people at home can't vote, but the guys that are here, how many folks in the room, let's actually do it for, let's take a quick guess. What do we think the iOS to Android ratio is in the room? What? 99 to 1, assuming iOS is the 99 and I'm the 1 Android. Show of hands. iOS? OK. Holy crap. All of Team Telerik. I'm the only Telerik person here. Oh, no. Mr. Smith's in the back. And how many Android? Or other, I guess, because I know 1 or 2 people have Windows Phone. Oh, yeah, Windows Phone. I won't call that 99 to 1. But I'm... What? I changed the terms. OK, so how many is Android? Oh, wow. It is 99 to 1. 2 people. And Windows Phone? Which is way more. So I would say if we had a pie, I would say iOS was about, this is rough, especially the people at home did not see the people raising their hand. 65 or 70% iOS? 25% Windows Phone, and 5% Android. That seems about right. In the accelerator, we have 18 people, including myself and the program director. And we actually have, of the 18 people, do you want to take a guess what the iOS to Android ratio is? And the reason why I say that is because no one has a Windows Phone, right? Because that's just not cool. So does anyone want to guess what?
I want to guess.
Yes.
I think it's 25% iOS and 75% Android.
25 iOS and 75 Android. That is about right. It's slightly skewed. I'd say it's about 22 to 80 or something like that. There are actually more people running CyanogenMod. Mod. Does anyone know what CyanogenMod? Mod? There are more people in the accelerator running CyanogenMod Mod than there are running iOS. There are 3 Galaxy Nexuses, which is the Google flagship phone in the as part of breaking down the Android. So it's really, really centric. What we've learned is that a lot of the people that are doing startups, the reason why they don't like iOS, can anyone guess?
Pricing.
Well, pricing, yeah, that's for sure. They're cheap, for sure. They don't like paying the $99 to the estate of Steve Jobs. Can anyone take another guess why they don't like iOS?
App Store lockdown?
App Store lockdown, yeah. So so the magic word of why they're on iOS is the APK, right? So I'll give you a quick example. One of the teams in the accelerator is doing software for conferences. You go to a conference and you'll do networking, all that fun stuff. So you come to an event. They've volunteered at all these startup events and agile events that are going on in Hong Kong to staff the registration desk. And then they say, oh, download our app. And they give them a QR code. Boop. And then the people come up, like the random person comes up with an iOS phone. And they go, sorry, we can't help you. Right? We're not in the App Store. Because they're just rapidly iterating. Just as a quick sidebar, there are two types of events in Hong Kong. I'll call this the events that have a lot of pretty girls at them, which are usually run by PR agencies, which talk about, what do you think? Right, which talk about social media. What do you think the iOS to Android ratio is at this event? 99 point, like, yeah, it's like to my Android. Like that's pretty much what the ratio is there. However, you go to like an Agile event, or you go to where you have this thing called Codeaholics. I won't try to spell that. It's back to that same ratio, about 75% Android and 25%. And what's interesting, I'm sure you don't have to guess, right? But the vendor that dominates the market is Samsung. All right, it's mostly the Galaxy S3 and the Note 2. And the true geeks are running, it's not like, which version of Android did you update, Jelly Bean, 4.1 or 4.2. It's like, which nightly of Cyanogen mod are you on, right? So the geek factor is pretty high when I've learned. So I've learned that the startups have a big geek factor, but they also are going for the cool factor, for sure. They're going for the cool factor where they're trying to get people to really like the app. And that's where the responsive design comes in, the onboarding, the things we were talking about. I had a question from TJ.
I think the age demographics come into play here too. When I look at 15 to 18-year-olds, I see no Androids.
15 to 18-year-olds, no Androids.
I'm yet to see them.
And what is it, iOS?
It's iOS, yeah. It's all
Got you.
All the way.
Well, what's interesting is in the accelerator, it's the old guys that have iOS.
Yeah.
Right? It's interesting. The old guys all have iOS. So I'm pretty much running out of time. So I'm not running out of time.
I just got to repeat the question.
Oh, Adam Kogan is telling me to repeat the question. You didn't get your signals correctly. Can I tell a funny Adam Kogan story?
Yes.
Which one do you want to hear? All of them.
Take it quick.
So I met Adam. Someone asked me today, how long have I known Adam? I believe I knew Adam in 1995. Might have been 1996. Let's just go 1996 is when I met him in person. I knew him electronically. And I was speaking at a conference in Scottsdale, Arizona. And I got like a random email from this guy named Adam Kogan. And he said, I run the Sydney.net, I'm sorry, .net didn't even exist, but the Sydney Access User Group. I saw that you run the New York City Access User Group. We should meet up when we're in Scottsdale. I say, awesome. I never met a person from Australia in the technology industry. It'd be really cool. So when the, well, Adam, you might want to put the camera on Adam. He's sweating a little. I have some good part of the story and bad part of the story. So let's first start with the bad part of the story. Adam had to crash at my hotel room because he forgot to make a reservation. Now, lucky for us, I can't spell lucky. Lucky for us, I was a speaker, and the conference was like so super sold out. They put me in some big mega suite, so I didn't have to listen to his snoring. But he woke up in the middle. I woke up in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat, because he put the thermostat, which was in Fahrenheit, like all the way up. He had like a big Fahrenheit, to Celsius conversion process. He kind of screwed that up. However, This is not the first time I've met Adam. We're having some fun. We're going. Do you remember what we did next? This is the good part, Adam. The good part of the story. I don't make fun of you.
My memory goes back to last year.
So we played some mixed doubles. I forget, who was the girl on your team? I had a lady named Marianne, who was from the Netherlands.
I had Kent.
Oh, you had her husband. So I guess we really didn't play that mixed doubles. We played some mixed doubles. I got thrown off the tennis court for wearing inappropriate attire. Then the next day, we get back on the tennis court, and Adam goes, Forte, Forte. I challenge you to some tennis. And I'm like, this guy doesn't even show up at the conference with the room. I could totally whip his butt in tennis. I think I managed 2 points. I think I got 30 points in the first set. In the set, not the first game. Until I gave up. And I said, never play. I now have a rule. Never play tennis with an Australian. I think what happens is that they're all sharks. Or at least Adam's a shark. I have exactly one data point. However, one of my wife's friends in Hong Kong, her husband, they're Aussies. They're from New South Wales, not from Sydney. And her husband, a good guy named Pete, keeps asking me to play tennis. And I'm like, I have a rule. Never play tennis with an Australian. Right? So this rule apparently is about 17 years old, but I've stuck to it, and my life has been better. I'll tell you one last Adam Kogan story, then I'll wrap up with just a tiny bit more of the technology I'm seeing with the startups. This one's a real fun one. I was in, I don't know the name of the town. I was going to use curse words. I can't do that. I was in the bush of Japan. We were trying to climb Mount Fuji. And we check into this really remote hotel, and we took the bullet train for hours from Tokyo. Well, not really for hours, but we took the bullet train from Tokyo, and we check into the hotel. And my wife goes missing. And one of my other friends, literally missing. We check in the hotel, I'm like, where's my wife? And I'm at the front desk. I'm trying to explain this to the guy at the front desk, and he's not getting it. My fault. I don't speak Japanese, right? And I start getting a little worried. So I knock on the door of one of our other friends that was staying, and I go, have you seen Kathleen? I go, we weren't fighting, so I don't think she left me. I go, but she's missing, and she was here when we checked in. And then I turn around with the key, and I go, but she had the key. That's the funny thing. She actually had the key to the room, so I didn't have the key to my room. But she wasn't in my room because I went downstairs to get an extra key. I knocked on every door of the hotel, could not find my wife. So I get to Adam's room. Oops. And no, my wife was not in Adam's room. I could see the looks on everyone's faces. I get to Adam's room, and we had a mutual friend in the room who will rename nameless. But he got really paranoid. He goes, she could be dead. She could have been kidnapped. Like, the triads could have gotten her. Like, this isn't good. Now I start to panic. I'm like, oh my God, my wife is dead. Like, what do I tell my in-laws? Like, I start freaking out. And Adam is doing the typical Adam thing. What do you think Adam's doing? Like, sitting on the laptop, checking email, right? We're in the bush of Japan. I don't even know how he's getting a signal or Wi-Fi or whatever it is. But he's sitting there checking his email. And then our mutual friend, who will remain nameless, but his name is Tom, Tom goes, Adam, come help us look for Kathleen. And he goes, no, you guys got this. I'm going to check the email. To this day, on our wedding day, Adam flew from Australia to New York City to come to our wedding. Did my wife say, thank you, Adam, for coming to our wedding? She said that to Mrs. Kogan, to Anastasia. What did she say to you, Adam? Thanks for leaving me for dead?
That's right.
Something like that. She has forgiven him. We actually look back at this and laugh, for sure. What? Oh, where was she? So apparently they had some very fancy rooms, these Japanese style rooms. But they also had like beds in the back, and she went and was sleeping. And when I knocked on all the doors, and that door was ajar, so because no one was staying in the room. And we opened up, I was with Tom, not Adam, and we opened up the door. And I said, oh, no one's in here, right? And I walk out because I didn't realize there was a room in the back. So the way I got to the bottom of this problem is I went to the front desk, and I asked them to page her. And it took like 2 or 3 pages, and because she thought we were joking with her, like she thought, like because she thought she was in the correct room, like it was all Japanese, and she, I guess the 6 or the 9 was upside down, whatever it was, and she was in the wrong room, which was kind of funny. So we kept looking and looking, she was totally, she was out cold, yeah. So one of the, I'll conclude one thing is one of the things that I look at the trends in Agile around the world. And I speak at a lot of Agile conferences and talk to a lot of developers. At Telerik, we make some Agile tools, so part of my day job, but also part of just my passion. And one of the things I've noticed about Agile, especially with Scrum, is that people are looking to modify it. So the whole classic Scrum, but they're also looking at things like Kanban to some extent, but more as a merger. Like between Scrum and something else, right? Yes, TJ.
Enterprises I work with.
Hold on, I got to repeat questions.
Kanban is getting more and more traction.
Okay, so what TJ just said is that at enterprises he works at, Kanban is getting more and more traction. And would you think the reason is because of the batch versus flow, or is it just because it's cool? Like, because Kanban's cool now, right?
I think it's easier for people to get a grip. It's easier to implement, or at least at the board level. What I don't understand is it's harder to implement the Kaizen.
It's virtually impossible if you don't understand the culture.
But the Kanban as a boards and all that, it's easier to follow the process.
It doesn't have many silly names for people.
Yeah. So what? For those that are listening at home, I typed it up, is the enterprise seems to be adopting because it's easier. And I wrote onboarding because I think onboarding to Kanban is dirt simple, because the first rule of Kanban is there is no rules, right? There's 5 principles of Kanban, or Steve Smith's telling me there's 2 rules. I don't know if they're technically rules. Well, I guess work in progress limits. But the real reason about Kanban is everything's supposed to change, right? And at Scrum, we have all these rules. And I say, how agile are you if you're told you have to have a meeting every day and you're told how long the meeting lasts and at what time of day you're supposed to have the meeting, right? So I'm definitely seeing a trend for startups, since lately I've been talking to a lot of startups. No Agile at all. They basically use the process known as, let's just keep coding until we, the no process, right? They have, it's not like all these startups around the world are using waterfall. They're just kind of coding, and they actually think process gets in the way. In that respect. Besides startups, as I said, large enterprises are looking at more like certifications, and they're looking at Kanban. They're looking at other types of things like that. In addition to that, I'm also seeing a lot of small companies are definitely looking at the Agile space, and they're thinking, what am I going to get out of this? Is Scrum and becoming a certified Scrum Master important or not? And I don't know. What do you guys, before I conclude, any experiences or things you want to share about that? How many people here are certified in some kind of Agile methodology? Show of hands. 3 people in the room. What would that percentage be? Like 6%? I don't know, 7%, something like that? All right. Yeah, just myself, Adam, you as well. 3 of us. All right. I think that's it. I think, another question from the audience, from Adam Kogan. Are you going to tell a funny Steve Forte story? Or? No. Because there are none.
I'm going to ask, you haven't mentioned WinPhone 8 or the Surface or the Windows 8 store. Can I have your opinion on those 3? It will exist very soon.
Yeah, so Windows Phone has almost no presence in Hong Kong. The lone Nokia store recently closed, and I walked past it. It was in a it's actually across from the Apple store, and it was open for years. And just recently, I noticed it was gone and replaced with a jewelry shop. So there's actually no Windows Phone or Win 8 penetration at all in Hong Kong. It's all Android. And the second place, far second, is iOS. In mainland China, there is a lot. Oh goodness, how did I do that? In mainland China, there is a lot of Windows Phone 8 penetration. Oddly enough, it's actually very popular in mainland China.
For Windows 8, not the phone. Is this also true?
Interestingly enough, let's just take a ratio. At the Startup Accelerator, there's 18 people again. How many Macs versus PCs ratio. What do you think that ratio is? 18 to 0. There are 16 Macs, one netbook, and I'm not making this up. A guy is using a netbook, and one guy is using an Ultrabook using Windows 8.
What's the OS in the netbook?
The netbook is Windows 7. Yeah, and one guy, two guys, or a couple, actually, no, 2 or 3 guys are running Parallels, but Mac is their primary. But one of those Macs, I'm pretty sure one of the Macs is actually using Windows 7 as their primary. So one of those is there. Now, Windows 8 in Hong Kong, I'm seeing people buying new PCs with Windows 8 on it. I think it's, to be honest, but I don't see people rushing out and buying PCs. So in Hong Kong today, you have to wait, you have to go onto the apple.hk's website and register for the right to buy an iPhone or an iPad mini some point in the future. Right? You just don't walk into the Apple store and buy an iPad. Right? They can't fill the orders fast enough. So you have to register, and they only let like 200 people buy it a day or whatever the maximum they allow in X number per hour. So if you went to apple.hk, you get a number, and it says, come back Thursday at 6 p.m. People sell these numbers. Right? Yeah. So people run out and buy the iPad, well, let's forget about iPhone because we're talking about Windows 8. So people run out and buy Macs all the time in the Apple store. No one's running out and buying Windows 8 because it's Windows 8, but people are definitely replacing their PCs and buying Ultrabooks. I do see them around all the, like locally, I do see it all over the place. Startups don't seem all that interested in Windows 8, but they don't see disinterested the way they do about Windows Phone. I think they look at it more as just something like, okay, you know, I could write code on this, but I don't necessarily see them. I don't necessarily see them saying that it's a platform that they're going to write apps for yet. Any other questions?
And the future of the Surface?
The future of the Surface. You want my opinion of the future of the Surface?
Surface Pro, I'm more thinking.
Surface Pro. Well, I think the Surface Pro will kill netbooks and will also do one thing. It will kind of change the way we think about laptops. So I think the Surface Pro, and then when the vendors start making things like the Surface Pro, will have a, it'll be interesting for people using that were, I look at my nephew, right? My nephew had a netbook and then he had a laptop. He didn't need either. He just was emailing and chatting and things like that. So he'll either get a Surface or a Surface Pro or an iPad. And I don't think you'll see the notebooks and low-end PCs with young people anymore. I think they're going to go either iPad or Surface. So I think the Surface Pro will have a future there, and of course with professionals in that respect.
I think you're wrong. I think the iPad has already killed netbooks.
Oh yeah, I agree with you. Actually, it will. Surface Pro will contribute to the death of lower-end. So you could walk into any of the computer electronic stores in Hong Kong and buy a fairly powerful but low-end machine, you know, for like $700, $800 US, right? So I think that those are gone. I think that will all move to Surface Pro. I think you won't see any of those lower-end laptops anymore. I think you are right, Chris. And I think with that, we might as well segue to Mr. Chris Ells. So, Chris, the stage is yours. And I'm going to take this. Thank you.